everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio in the town of Geraldine, Alabama. We're your source for news and entertainment. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, as well as Abundance TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. A lot of you folks, you've been sending me a lot of recommendations. What can we do about the show? And it's just a whole range of things. It's politics, but a lot of you have wanted me to start talking a little bit more about having to live off the land, since I live on a farm here in Geraldine. Got 38 acres of land, 2 houses out here, got a greenhouse, bees, we got all kinds of stuff planted out there. And we've talked earlier about, as a matter of fact, this past summer, we were talking about how to have a garden using cinder blocks. And I'll be doing more of that this coming summer once we get started on that again. But I wanted to talk to you about 18 ways you can live off the land. A little bit later, we're going to talk about how you can actually make money living off the land. But for this segment, let's go ahead and talk about 18 ways to live off the land. Now, I found this on the rustiklk.com. The rustiklk.com. So you'll be able to follow along with me as well. There's 18 ways you can do this. Now, first of all, you're going to have to adjust your lifestyle, because living out in the country is just a little bit different. We're living in Charlotte, North Carolina. I used to host a talk show there. And the thing about living in town, first of all, very little dust. Yeah, I didn't have to dust but like once a week or so. When you live out in the country, you're going to have to dust almost every day to keep a truly clean house. So just remember that, okay? So you're going to have some adjustments along the way, but I'm going to tell you, it's worth it. It's well worth doing that. Now, some of the happiest, richest people in the world have absolutely nothing, and that is so true. They're not having to worry about stuff, you know what I mean? Stuff that can kind of take over your life. This lifestyle requires some sacrifices, but once you get into this kind of life, it's really not a sacrifice at all. You'll need to be comfortable with a lifestyle that doesn't afford many material items. Yet realize that this way of life will provide greater rewards in a lot of other ways. First of all, let's just talk about the supply chain. You know, we've all been, the past few years, past 2 or 3 years, you go to the grocery store and they'll be out of stuff, which is not happened in my lifetime before. And so going to the grocery store, such things as when the pandemic hit, toilet paper. Where was all the toilet paper going? So there's going to be a lot more of that, I'm afraid. So let's just dive into this and let's get ready for it together, okay? Changing your mindset. This is a biggie right here. Now, while we've all been led to believe that we have a job, we simply don't have a job. Let me explain that. Sure, we do need to work and work hard, but that doesn't mean you have to be defined by a conventional job. Work for yourself and your loved ones, not someone else who's profiting off of your time and effort. You know, there was a time the industrial age actually brought in jobs. Yeah, there was a time when people had their own career. They had their own thing they did. And what folks would do a lot of times then is they would barter. And they could be tending land, or they could own their land. My granddad actually bought the land we're on right now back in the 1930s. He bought it for $5,000. Now, $5,000 was a lot of money back in the 1930s. We're all proud he did it. Because even when I was a kid growing up, I would tell people, you know, I one of these days I'm going to buy this farm. You know, when I grow up, I'm going to buy the farm. And we did. So Phil and I moved back from Charlotte, and we did buy the farm. Okay, so definitely change your mindset. You got to do that. Working for yourself and your loved ones, okay? Now, I'm not saying when you have a job not to do it, because that's a lie right there, okay? You got to, when you're working for somebody, you got to put your best foot forward, okay? You need to treat it as if you own it. And that's how you're going to keep your job, if that's what you choose to do. Number 3 is do what you love. Absolutely. If it's you've got a special talent in something, you like to work with metals, you like to work with, you just want to work with your hands and just make stuff and feel accomplished, you can do that. Absolutely. There's something to be said about doing what you love and loving what you do. You know, we've all heard that the past few years. Doing what you love and doing what you love. Absolutely. Keep that idea of not needing a job to the next level. Take your hobbies, your skills, and other interests and turn them into a profit. Whether it's selling your wares or services or teaching others how to do those things, you could love what you do. So that's another thing that I'm going to do here on the farm coming up next spring. We're going to be talking about how to do stuff, here on the farm. It's going to be live and in action. And you can come too. You're invited to come and be part of that show as well. Now, with that in mind, be willing to work hard. Now, some folks think, oh, I'm living off the land. I'm doing what I love doing, and they want to do it part-time. That's going to be sacrificing a lot of time, especially when you first get started. Homesteading, living off the land, self-efficiency, none of these are for the faint of heart. They require much more time and dedication and work harder than your 9-to-5 job. Now, the dividends your blood, sweat, and tears produce are far more rewarding than any other job in the world. I'm going to say that. And I'm going to tell you what, in the summertime, you're going to be working much harder than you would be a typical job. But in the wintertime, you're going to be reaping all those great rewards there. Like, it's going to be nice to open up a can of beans that you worked really hard and you had in your garden, or okra. You're going to fry that okra, or your juice in the morning. Yeah, so we have blackberries and raspberries and blueberries and all those great things. So it's really awesome to wake up in the morning and have that juice that when we gathered and we canned it and we did all those things. Okay, number 5. Now, we talked about working hard. Number 5, become debt-free. That's something you got to do. Debt is crippling. You know, debt makes you a slave. Yeah, when you're making that monthly house payment, or when you're making any kind of a payment whatsoever, you're a slave to that. Yeah. Debt is crippling. Some say it's a modern form of slavery. When we owe someone money, we are a slave to that debt until it's repaid. And if you do not have debt, you're freer than anyone who does. And of course, homesteading isn't free, but we're going to talk about how to make homesteading financially in the next segment. I promise we're going to do that. And I want to give you a little story too. I think I've mentioned it several times on the show, but my granddad, when he bought this farm back in the 1930s, he said, I want to have this farm paid off, so I don't want to owe anybody anything. And he said, I want to pay this debt off in 2 years. He did, but it was a lot of hard work now. He held 2 jobs and he farmed the land at the same time. But I've heard him say over and over again, that was a tough 2 years, but he was glad he did it because then he was debt-free. And again, we're talking about getting started living off the land. I'm so glad you're with me today. But yeah, you don't want to be a slave to debt. Now, become debt-free. We said that. Now let's talk about learn ways to repurpose items. Oh man, there's so many ways that we've done this. So I have, we robbed our bees this weekend. And that was, and it turns into a fun job. You feel like you've accomplished something, you know. And one of my beekeeper friends had said, you know, because you hear different things from different folks, you got to find out whatever works for you when you're beekeeping. So one guy said, I only do it in the springtime. And then one guy said, nope, I only do mine in the fall. So I wanted to talk with him, find out, well, why do you think it's best to do your beekeeping and rob the bees in the summertime? And he said, well, first of all, it flows easier. The bees are not as aggressive. And that was true, I agreed with that. So we actually robbed the bees in the summertime, around the 4th of July. Then I wanted to talk to my other bee guy. And I said, well, why are you so hip on, why does it have to be in the fall of the year with you? And I said, you got to find what works for you, okay? He said, well, the bees are a little more aggressive now because they're aware that wintertime is coming up and they want to keep all that honey for themselves throughout the winter. And I said, well, then why is it better? And he said, first of all, I don't completely rob them. He leaves food for them, which is what we did. We left them some honey. He said, and they are a little more aggressive, but it's a richer honey. He said, it's almost like sorghum syrup. You know, if any of you have had that, you live in Alabama, you know what I'm talking about. It's a real thick syrup. I mean, it's so thick you're going to tear your biscuit up if you're going to put it on top of the biscuit. You'll need to put it in the microwave for just a few seconds so it's not quite so thick. So we just robbed the bees just this past weekend. And it is a thicker honey. And it does have a different flavor to it. Now, which one am I going to choose? Both. I'm going to do some in the summer, and then I'm going to do some in the fall. So I like both ideas, so we're going to do both. But you got to find out how to repurpose things. So I brought the honey up so we can talk about, I've got some of the honey. Now, another thing, you're repurposing, okay? You're still feeding those honeybees. So we put all of our equipment, everything that we used, to rob the honey, and we put it all out on the picnic table, and then some out there where the hives were. And do you know those bees are so resourceful? They eat all of the honey off of all of the trash stuff that came from robbing the bees. So what I did, I got the trash part, and you can make some beautiful, beautiful wax out of it. See, I make another thing about repurposing, okay? So out of that wax, I'm not throwing that away because I can make all kinds of lip glosses with that. It's really good for your lips. Candles. That's another reason I started beekeeping, is the cost of wax. If you can find it, the cost of beeswax has tripled in value. So I knew I had to do something because I got my regular customers who like my beeswax. So, and then can you find it? I don't want to have to depend on somebody else for buying my wax. So anyway, that's why we started repurposing. So there are so many things that a lot of people throw out that can still be used. Learn creative ways to recycle and repurpose items to fulfill a need instead of buying something new or already made. You remember when I went to Shepherd's Cove Thrift Shop and I bought this lamp, and it was made out of metal, and it had horses, metal horses around it. There were 3 of them. I didn't see that as trash at all. I didn't see that as anything to throw away. I paid $3 for this lamp. Do you know how many people want to buy my wind chime? Yeah, the wind chime that I made out of those horses. So I took the horses off and made a nice wind chime out of it and put a few repurposed beads. And I mean, everybody wants to buy that lamp. It's not for sale, in case you ask me again. So again, that comes from repurposing something. So it was what some people considered a trash. I turned it into a treasure. Buy used. Yes, this is number 7, buy used. Instead of going in debt and buying a new truck or a tractor, you can buy a used one. Go to Twin City used car sales, wherever you live, in any of the 50 states and even in Australia, you can have it shipped. So please do go to Bobby Ledbetter at Twin City Used Car Sales, and he'll find the car you're looking for. This is the only guy I trust. Instead of going into debt and buying a brand new truck or a tractor, buy a used one. This can save you a bundle, keep you out of debt, and it can teach you a new skill set too. You should know or learn how to fix basic problems with your vehicles and equipment instead of always hiring it done. You know what? That's what YouTube is for. Phil has figured out all kinds of ways to repair a lot of stuff here on the farm by going to YouTube. Do you know we built a deck? And this was a necessity. When we bought the farm, I told you about that a few years ago, and the house had been unlived in for about 12 years, both houses. So we've had a lot of repairs to do here on the farm. The back deck was my granddad's prized deck. He loved it, but guess what? Not living in a house, it's going to cave in. And the deck did cave in, so it had to be replaced. We could not find a soul. All the good people, by the way, were on other jobs. So Phil said, I think we can build it. And I'm a little scared, and I said, you can. I'm not so sure I can. So we started looking at YouTube videos on how to do it, the precise measurements. Don't take just one video now. You need to do a lot of research and go through a lot of videos to do this. And he did, and I'm going to tell you what, this deck's the best deck I've ever seen. We saved a lot of money. We figure we saved about $4,000 to $5,000 by doing the work ourselves. Was it a lot of hard work? It was a lot. When we started it, I was like, I think you made a mistake putting me as your person to help you with this deck. But I learned how to use a saw. I learned how to do all kinds of things now that we can do around the house. So now when we have projects, Phil depends on me to do all the cutting with the saws. And it's a skill I'm pretty proud of. So remember, even if you're a woman, there are things that you can do. Okay, let's see. Grow your own. Yes, 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 yes. Food is expensive. Most definitely it's expensive. If you're looking at Whole Foods, like you want all natural stuff, if you go to Whole Foods or look at the prices on those, you're going to be paying a lot. Like the juice we make with muscadines and with grapes and with blackberries and with blueberries, if you buy that at Whole Foods, a quart is going to cost you over $10. So I put up 100 and something quarts this year. Do you know how much that would be? 100, let's say 100 times 10. That's a lot of money, and it's well worth doing it yourself. Takes a little while, but you know what? It doesn't take all year long to do it, and you can learn little shortcuts on the way. Okay, food's expensive. Whether you're looking at whole foods or processed foods, it's an incredible cost. So learn how to grow your own food and save your hard-earned money for something else. Yeah, look at the money we've saved just on the grape juice and stuff itself, just that money. So you can put that into something else to do repairs on. And you can do this no matter where you live, so don't avoid it because you're not on some huge property. I knew a lady in Oxford, Alabama. Her name was Mrs. Bergdorfer, and we lived in town. She lived in town just a few houses on down from us, and her backyard was a very, very small backyard. I'm going to say the whole thing was a lot. In other words, it was a fraction of an acre. This woman raised so much food in that backyard. It was incredible. She was giving food away. She had so much. Her and Mr. Bergdorfer couldn't eat it all. And she was constantly giving me plants and stuff. And she would always say, "I know you work, honey, but you can raise your own food." And she was absolutely right. I'm so glad I listened to this lady. Okay, eat real food. This is number 9. We may have to turn this into 2 shows. So this is number 9. Real food. Eating out, buying coffee at a coffee house, junk foods like candy are more expensive than eating real food, even if you have to purchase the ingredients. They not only quickly drain your monetary resources, they drain your health. And I love eating out now, okay? The Cattle Stampede Steakhouse, yes, you better believe I love eating there. Miles Smith buys from locally grown farms, so you can eat some good food there. Eating out once in a while or having a treat is great, but when you're looking for ways to achieve your goal of self-sufficiency, they should take a back seat. Absolutely. I love eating out. Birthdays, I make up little holidays on reasons to go to the Cattle Stampede Steakhouse. You better believe it. But it's really, really good food. But raising your own food is good too. Realize relocation as a possibility. Now you can grow food in town. You most certainly can. And you want to have raised gardens if you live in town. I have a friend who lives in Collinsville, and so she said that she bought this land and bought it like really, really cheap. And the person she bought it from almost laughed as he was walking off after they closed the deal. But she turned that rocky, hilly, all kinds of stuff on the ground into raised gardens. And she has a success. And this is in Collinsville. It's really rocky. It's kind of rocky right here in Geraldine too. But you can still do it. You can actually get hay bales and grow food in hay bales. You know that? Oh yeah. You can go to your local food store or go to your local the Lowe's or Home Depot or that kind of thing and buy bags of dirt. And you can grow vegetables in that too. Do like we did, buy concrete. Now, it's a pretty expensive venture to start out with, but you've got it forever and ever. As long as you live, hand it down to your kids, your cinder block garden. The roots that grow are incredible there. Now, our old house, they say, that's what the author says, and this is the rusticelk.com. Okay, it says our old house was too much for us and did not provide us with the land we needed to be self-sufficient. They were technically in the city limits and had regulations. You got to watch out for that. Where we lived in the city, no regulations. We technically were in the city limits and had regulations that kept us from doing a lot of things we needed to become more self-efficient. So like us, you may need to be willing to move, whether it be across town, in a more rural area, or across the country to a more self-sufficient, friendly locale. You've got to be willing to make sacrifices. But they're not sacrifices once you get it all done. Number 11, decrease your monthly obligation, your monthly bills. Ditch the cable. We don't have cable. Decrease your monthly cell phone bills. Get rid of your landline, which is what we did a long time. Who has a landline anymore anyway? Find items that modern society typically considers necessities and dump them, or at least decrease the cost. We changed our mobile carrier. We were using one carrier, went to another one, and we're saving $100 a month. And I'm not noticing any issues whatsoever. As a matter of fact, customer service is better. I like what I've got now. $100 for the same thing. We've still got unlimited calling, unlimited texts, and unlimited internet using that. Number 12, downsize. Oh, yep. Find a smaller house or build it on a larger piece of property. Land's where it's at. If you can find some land and be in a smaller house, that's what we did. We downsized the house, but we got the land. and it's worth it more to us. We're not little kids running around or anything like that, so we could actually afford to live in a smaller house. And guess what? I don't miss at all having 3.5 bathrooms. I don't miss it. A lot easier to clean what we've got. Okay, you don't really need to hold on to materials. Downsizing can help greatly. Excess just makes life more suffocating. It does, and it needs to be, and we aren't any better for having them. Now, when we moved from Charlotte, we downsized, okay? We had that big house in Charlotte, 3.5 bathrooms, which was not necessary at all. The only time we ever used them was when Brad brought his college buddies over. That's the only time. You don't have to have 3.5 bathrooms. 1.5 is sufficient. That's all you need. Let's see, buy smaller. If you truly want to live off the land, then getting out of the city is definitely a step in the right direction. Sure, it's nice dreaming of only 100 acres and working the land. However, for most people in most areas, that's not financially practical. And if you live closer to the south, by the way, you own a business, and you're thinking about relocating your business, come down here to Alabama. A lot less property, a lot less to pay for your property, and it's more beautiful too. Absolutely. Let's see, it's best to have a couple of acres to call your own than a postage stamp. That's true. Put things in perspective and be willing to buy and live off on a smaller plot of land if it means achieving your goals sooner and more financially in a positive way. Yeah, you can live off the land on 1 acre. You can live off the land on a lot too. Absolutely. Again, when you get to a lot, you got to be really careful there, because if you are living in the city limits, you may have some restrictions. So before you buy, make sure you check out those restrictions. Number 14, sell your junk. All right, you've downsized, you've purged a bunch of stuff, make some money on it. Yeah, seriously, who needs more than one TV? Do you need a TV at all? Yeah, you do. You got to have at least one. I differ with them on this. Who needs 1 million electronic gadgets? Just take the money you make and put it towards your debt, or save it for the next big purchase. No sense in letting money sit around. That's true. Absolutely. So many different ways you can sell off of eBay. On Craigslist you can sell. That's free. And then also on Facebook, the marketing place, you can sell stuff on. I've sold a lot of stuff off of Facebook. You can do that. Learn the art of bartering. We talked about that on a previous show on Living on the Edge with Donna and Kathy. Kathy and I talked about that last week. When you go to more rural locales, you'll often find that bartering is alive and well. My grandparents used to talk about bartering. That was a good thing to do. You don't need money for everything you require. Sometimes you just have to have something that someone else wants or needs. Trade your skills. Do that too. Our products for their skills or products. Bartering is an amazing tool. Teach classes. Barter out the classes. Maybe it could be something that you can use in your trade. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm going to have some classes on how to make jewelry or how to do things out in the garden. And I'm just going to barter that out. So if some of you guys want to be into some of my classes, let me know what you got to barter, and we'll just go from there. You won't have to pay for it. Okay, go off grid. This may require you to be more willing to move than you possibly thought, because not everyone is off-grid friendly. However, going off the grid it's just the self-reliance and living off the land. If you aren't independent, if you aren't dependent enough someone else to provide you with power, water, and other services, then you're more self-reliant and you aren't paying someone else monthly for those services. Do you know that you can build an oven outside off of what you probably already got on your land? We're going to have that in another segment. I'm giving you some ideas on some segments. Number 17, find unconventional sources of income. Let's talk about that for a minute. You can sell your wares, your products, or your services to others. There's a few ways to get started. First of all, right here in Geraldine, we have a farmer's market. There's a farmer's market in every city and town in the United States. You can join a local farmer's market. Just about everywhere has a farmer's market. We talked about that. Sell your produce or your handmade wares there to make a bit of extra cash. Yeah. And that can also, by the way, a lot of us have hobbies, but you need to learn how to make money with your hobbies. Okay? Don't let it be just something. You need to learn how to make money with it. Okay? Open a roadside stand. While this requires a little bit more research than joining a farmer's market, it's still an option. Look into the local regulations to what you can and can't sell and what's required to open a roadside stand. I know a farmer who actually didn't put a price on any of his stuff. He left it unattended. Every single morning he would take his stuff out there. And my question about that was, dude, you're going to get robbed. People are going to take your stuff and not put money in. He said, I'm pretty sure some did. He said, but most people put more money than what I would have charged anyway. So he came out pretty good in the deal. He said, if somebody needs food, let them take it. But if somebody wants to pay a little extra, I'll take it. Okay, we talked about opening up a booth in the roadside stand. Look into the local regulations again about the stand, okay? I don't want you to get yourself in trouble. Open a booth at a flea market. Okay, he goes on to say we have several flea markets near us. People sell anything from antiques to homemade goods to unwanted items. And whatever is your trash could be somebody else's treasure. Remember that. There are a lot of collectors out there. Old toys. Oh, people collect old toys. Breed livestock. I'll tell you what we do here on the land. We don't have time for cattle and stuff like that. But my cousin Brian has cattle, so what we do is we rent the land out to Brian. So it's kind of cool. We're helping each other out. It's helping him with cattle, and so he gets to sell it off, and it's helping us with keeping the land looking nice. You know, we don't have to plow. We don't have to do all this stuff. The cattle do it for us. I don't think he likes it, though, because I've actually made pets out of the cattle. Yeah, every time I go out there, they come up to me like a dog. Don't tell Brian that, okay? Let's see. Okay, there's something called Fiverr, and he said he'd never heard of it. It was a new friend over at Joy Belee Farm shared a great post on how to supplement your income with Fiverr. And let me spell that for you. It's Fiverr. Start a backyard business. You can do that. Teach the kids. You know, kids I'm going to have a little lemonade stand. I did that a few times when I was growing up at Cheehaw Acres number 2. Check out a post from their friends at Farm Fit Living. And it's 23 backyard business ideas. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. Get creative. Yeah, think about what you can do. Get creative. Sell on eBay. We talked about that. You can start a blog. A lot of folks are doing that. Have a show. That's what I do. Take your time and stay positive. You need to think outside the box. In another show, I'm going to give you 103 different ideas you can make money from a small property. You can do it. Take your time and stay positive. This is number 18. We're about to call it a day. None of the suggestions are going to help you get living off the land overnight. You got to trust it. You got to get books. I'd rather have the books, by the way, than watch the videos. Yeah, and you can go to Shepherd's Cove Thrift Shop. They've got the books down to 25 cents a piece. I have found some super awesome books at that thrift store. None of the suggestions are going to get you living off the land overnight. You need to devise a plan to reach your goals. And it's goal setting is just like running a business, okay? And you need to write down your goals, what you need to get accomplished every day. That's what Phil does. He has this accomplishment goal list that he does every single day. And it's an accomplishment. It's an accomplishment goal set. So he'll write down what does he want to get done today. And then when he does it, he'll say, here's another one off the goal sheet. He does it. I get to hear him say that every day, and it's pretty cool. Thank you so much for watching. Our next segment, we're going to talk about how to make money from the land. I appreciate you listening and appreciate you staying with us all day today. You take care. And again, I look forward to being with you on the next afternoon drive home.
You have been at this for 12 years. Why are you doing it?
Because God's children are not for sale.
Rated PG-13.